The spaceport city of Caltharian was always full of noise. Ships landing, engines humming, aliens shouting in different languages, and humans walking quickly with tired eyes. In the middle of this busy place, a small alien girl stood on a metal crate, her silver eyes glowing with pride. Her name was Ural, a young warrior from the Varnak species. Varnaks were known for their strength, speed, and cold hearts. They respected only power, and Ural, even though small, believed she had more power than any human. She pointed her finger at a group of human workers and shouted, "Look at them, soft and slow. Humans are weak, always crying, always hiding behind machines." Some aliens laughed, some ignored her. But one human in the crowd looked up silently. His name was Jace, a young engineer who fixed broken drones and security systems in the lower docks. Jace didn't speak, didn't argue. He just kept walking with a calm face. But something in his eyes showed he had heard her words and he didn't forget them. Ural noticed him too. "You there, human," she called out. "You look like someone who runs from danger." Jace turned slightly, gave a small smile, and replied, "Maybe, or maybe I know when to walk away." Then he disappeared into the crowd. The day passed like normal, but that night, something strange happened. A strange signal echoed from the outer edge of the city, near the old industrial zone. The signal was unregistered, full of static and strange clicking sounds. City guards checked their scanners and said it was probably a broken transmitter. Nothing dangerous, so they ignored it. But Jace didn't. His tools picked up something different. Energy spike, not from this planet. He packed a small kit, locked his room, and headed out into the night, walking alone toward the silent factories. Ural, curious and still feeling bold, followed him without being seen. "Let's see how far this weak human goes," she whispered to herself. The air grew colder as they reached the industrial edge. Broken pipes hissed steam. Rusted buildings groaned. In the wind, Jace moved with care, scanning walls, checking heat patterns. He wasn't afraid, only focused. Ural stayed in the shadows, watching her tail curled tight, though she didn't want to admit if she was starting to feel nervous. Then came the first sound. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't wind. It was low, growling, like metal grinding. Against bone, Jace stopped. Looking around slowly, he whispered, "You're not a broken signal." From the dark, a figure moved fast and sharp. Like a shadow crawling sideways on the wall, Jace backed up. Pulling out a small defense drone from his pack, it hovered with a soft beep, spinning as it scanned the area. From her hidden place, Ural scoffed. "That tiny thing. That's your plan." But she was sweating, her claws ready, her instincts screaming something was wrong. Suddenly, a loud crash. Pipes exploded, and from the smoke, it jumped. It was not an animal, not a robot. It was something else made of wires, black bone, and red lights for eyes. The drone fired, sparks flew. The beast dodged, and Jace rolled to the side. Barely escaping its claws, Ural froze, her heart pounding. She thought of running, but something stopped her. Jace didn't scream, didn't panic. He reached into his kit, grabbed an electric baton, and faced the beast again. Alone, Ural took a step forward. But the metal wall sealed behind her. She was trapped in a side corridor, able to see through a cracked panel but unable to help. She watched, helpless, as the human she had mocked stood between a monster and death. He wasn't strong like her, not fast, not trained in battle. But he didn't run, and in that moment, for the first time in her young warrior life, Ural felt unsure. Had she been wrong about humans? And was this quiet, calm human about to die just to prove her wrong? The broken factory was no longer quiet. The air inside was heavy and full of strange tension. Jace moved slowly, his left hand holding the electric baton, his right hand ready to grab anything useful from his side pouch. The defense drone circled above him, damaged, but still working. Its blue light flickering like a warning behind the cracked wall panel. Ural pressed her face to the gap, her silver eyes wide with disbelief. The creature stepped into the light, tall and twisted. It looked like someone had melted a machine and a skeleton together. Wires hung from its shoulders. Red eyes blinked with a strange rhythm. It didn't move like a beast. It moved like it understood Jace, testing him, learning him. Jace whispered, "You're not from here, are you?" Though he knew it wouldn't answer, the creature growled. A sound like metal tearing, and then leaped. Jace rolled, barely escaping the claws that slammed into the ground behind him. The floor cracked under its power, but Jace didn't freeze. He stayed low, slipped under a pipe, and tapped a button on his wristband. Steam burst from a vent, covering the area in white mist. The drone fired a shock pulse, hitting the beast in the back. It screamed. A sound that rattled the broken windows. Ural gasped, her claws digging into the wall. She hated feeling trapped, hated watching. But what shocked her more was the way Jace kept moving. Not strong, not fast, but smart. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to survive, and he was doing it well. Jace grabbed a loose power cable, ripped off the insulation with his teeth, and jabbed the wire into a puddle just as the creature stepped in. The floor sparked. Electricity shot up the monster's legs. It roared in pain, twitching, and fell for just a second. Jace didn't wait. He ran toward a narrow hallway, deeper into the factory, hoping to lose it in the maze. Ural finally broke the lock on her side door with a kick, her small but powerful legs bending the weak frame. She ran after him, faster now, her heart racing. Not because she was afraid of the monster, but because she didn't want to lose sight of the human who had just risked his life for nothing more than curiosity. She caught up with him in a dark hallway, lit only by red emergency lights. "You should have run," she said, breathless. Jace looked at her, surprised but not angry. "Why are you here? I followed you," she replied, then added quickly, "to prove you were a coward." Jace gave a small smile, wiped blood from his eyebrow, and, "What did you see?" Ural didn't answer. Not yet. A sound echoed behind them. The beast was back. Louder, faster, angrier. They ran side by side through the narrow halls, twisting and turning past collapsed beams and flickering lights. Jace led them into a small control room, locked the metal door behind them, and dropped to his knees, gasping. Ural stood guard, listening, her ears twitching to catch every movement outside. Jace checked his wounds. Nothing broken, but deep scratches on his side. "Why didn't you run away earlier?" Ural finally asked, not mocking now, but genuinely confused, because someone had to check that signal. Jace said, "And if no one did, more people could have died." "But you're just a human," she said softly. "No weapons, no backup, not even armor." Jace laughed quietly. "Sometimes all we need is a reason." The room started shaking. Dust fell from the ceiling. The monster was outside, pounding on the walls. Ural looked around, then spotted a ventilation shaft. Small and narrow, but they could fit. "We can't fight it," she said. "Not yet." Jace nodded, pulled out a glowing beacon from his bag, and activated it, placing it on the floor. "Decoy," he whispered, then climbed into the vent. Ural followed close behind as they crawled through the tight tunnel. Jace's voice echoed softly behind her. "You still think humans are weak?" Ural didn't answer for a long time, then said quietly, "I think. I don't know what to think anymore." They reached the end of the tunnel and dropped into a lower room filled with broken crates and spilled wires. Ural turned to him, eyes serious now. "I've seen warriors scream and run from smaller things." "Then that monster," Jace chuckled. "We're not warriors, not most of us. We just try not to die for the first time." Ural smiled a little, not a mocking smile, but something closer to respect. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above. The beast had broken into the control room and was searching for them again. Ural looked. At Jace, "It's hunting us now." Jace looked back, eyes sharp. "Then we hunt it first." The lower chamber was cold, filled with broken machines, leaking wires, and pieces of metal scattered across the dusty floor. Jace scanned the room quickly, his eyes moving fast, his fingers reaching for tools in his belt pouch. Ural stood still, listening carefully, her ears sharp, her breath slow. Her tail curled tight against her leg. The sound of the creature above grew louder. It was searching, smelling, learning. "Do you have a plan?" Ural whispered. "Not mocking this time, Jace." Nodded slowly. "I need 5 minutes, maybe less." He knelt beside a control panel, opened a small case from his bag, and pulled out a tiny arc welder with steady hands. He started working attaching wires, pulling parts from a broken drone, and rewiring the power coil. Ural watched him with growing interest. She had never seen someone build a weapon so fast. And without fear, the floor above them creaked loudly, then shattered. The monster crashed through the ceiling, landing in the room with a heavy thud, red lights glowing from its eyes, claws scraping the floor. It roared, a terrible sound, and then it moved fast. Faster than before, Jace rolled to the side, sliding across the floor. Grabbing a thick power cable as he moved, Ural jumped forward, slamming her shoulder into the beast to buy Jace more time. The creature flew back, crashed into a wall, but quickly got up again. Now Jace shouted and pressed the button on his device. A sudden blast of blue light filled the room. The air shimmered with static, and a magnetic pulse shot from the coil he had built. The creature screamed, circuits burning, wires popping, its body stiff for just a moment. Ural didn't wait. She charged with all her strength, driving both fists into the beast's chest. Pushing it back again, but it didn't fall. It growled and swung its sharp arm. Slashing Ural across the side, she winced but didn't fall. Jace ran to her, grabbed her arm, and pulled her behind a stack of crates. "You okay?" he asked. Checking the wound. "I've had worse," she said through clenched teeth. But her voice shook a little. The creature started scanning the room again, slower now, its body damaged. But still deadly, Jace reached into his bag again, blood dripping from his fingers, and pulled out the last shock charge he had. "One shot," he whispered. "I need a clear path." Ural looked at the crates, then the beast, and nodded. "I'll give you one." Before Jace could stop her, she jumped out again, shouting at the top of her voice, "Hey, metal face, I'm still here." The creature turned, rushed at her with full force, claws ready to tear. Ural ducked, rolled, and led it straight into the center of the room, where Jace waited silently. He stood up, aimed the shock charge, and threw it. The small device hit the beast's back and exploded with a sharp crack. Electricity surged through the monster's body. Sparks flew from its joints. Smoke burst from its mouth, and it finally collapsed with a heavy crash. The room went silent. Only the sound of Jace and Ural breathing hard filled the space. They stood for a moment, neither speaking, both staring at the fallen creature. "Is it dead?" Ural asked, voice low. "Maybe," Jace replied. "Or maybe it's just sleeping." She gave him a tired smirk. "You humans and your dark humor." Jace sat down, leaning against the wall, his arm still bleeding, his face pale but calm. Ural joined him, sitting close, holding her side. "I thought humans were weak," she said quietly. "But you faced that thing like it was just another job." Jace looked at her and shrugged. "I was scared. You didn't show it. I've learned to be scared and still move." He said, "That's how humans survive." She stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. They sat in silence for a while, the monster still lying motionless, The room dim and broken, but peaceful for now. Outside, alarms started ringing in the city. The guards were finally responding. Jace stood up slowly, offered his hand to Yoro, said, "Let's get out of here before they mess up the story." She took his hand without hesitation. They walked back through the tunnels. Two different beings who now understood something deeper. Respect and something else, something unspoken, growing between them in the silence of the dark. The night was still dark when Jace and Yrel stepped out of the tunnel and into the open sky. Broken clouds moved slowly above them, letting the moonlight shine down on the dust-covered city edge. The air was cold and their wounds were fresh, but both of them kept walking without a word. They reached a small maintenance station near the lower docks, a forgotten place full of rusted tools and half-broken machines. Jace unlocked the metal door, pushed it open, and nodded toward a bench. "Sit, I'll patch you up." Yrel hesitated, then sat slowly, watching him carefully, her side still aching from the slash. Jace moved without wasting time, cleaning the cut, wrapping it gently, his hand steady despite his own pain. "You've done this before," she said softly, not a question, more like a truth, too many times. He replied without looking up. She tilted her head, curious now. "You're not a soldier, you're an engineer." "I was," he said, pressing the final wrap in place. "Now, I just fix things. But you fight like someone who's seen real war." She added, "That wasn't just luck back there." Jace sat down on the floor, back against the wall, and looked at her for a long moment. "I had a sister," he began quietly. "She was younger than me, smart, kind, always smiling." Yrel's eyes softened. She didn't interrupt. "One day, there was a collapse in a research station near the polar ridge." Jace continued, his voice low. "No one came to help. The signal was weak. Lost in the storm, she died." Yrel guessed, her voice barely a whisper. Jace nodded. "I tried to reach her. Walked 2 days in the snow. By the time I got there, it was too late." Silence filled the room again. Only the quiet hum of broken circuits buzzed around them. "That's when I decided to build better tools, better sensors, better ways to detect weak signals, so no one else would die alone." Yrel looked at him with new eyes now, not as a weak human, not as a joke, but as someone carved by pain and fire. "You don't fight with strength," she said, "you fight with memory." Jace smiled faintly. "And tools, lots of tools." She chuckled softly, then winced at the pain in her side. He noticed and stood again, grabbed a thermal blanket from a drawer, wrapped it around her shoulders. "You always carry these?" she asked, surprised old habit. He replied, "Prepare for the worst. Hope for the best." Yrel's eyes lowered, and she said something he didn't expect. "When I was young, I was told humans were weak. Because they feel too much," she said. "Because they cry. Because they care. And now," Jace asked gently, "I think maybe feeling is what makes you strong," she whispered. He didn't answer, just leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes for a moment. The silence between them wasn't empty now. It was full of understanding. After a while, Jace stood and walked to a small workbench, beginning to fix his damaged drone. Yrel sat quietly, watching his hands move fast but carefully. "You really believe machines can save people?" she asked. "They saved me," he replied, "when I was broken. Building them gave me a reason to wake up." She looked down at her claws, thinking deeply. "I was trained to destroy," she said, "to win, to fight, to kill if needed." "And now?" Jace asked again, the same soft tone. "I don't know anymore," she said. "You showed me another way, a path I never saw." He looked at her. Their eyes met, and for a second, the world outside didn't exist. A loud knock at the door broke the moment. Yrel jumped up, claws ready, but Jace held up a hand. "It's okay. I locked the outer sensors. It's just the city guards. She stepped back, unsure. They'll take you in for breaking protocol. Jace shrugged. Let them. I'll tell them the truth, or just enough of it. What about the creature? She asked. It's still down there. I marked the location. They'll find it, he said. And they'll make the report say what they want. Ural paused, then stepped close and touched his arm. If they take you, I'll speak for you, she said. You saved my life. You fought for this city. They should know that. Jace smiled. Tired but grateful. Thanks, Ural. She nodded once, serious and calm. You're not weak, Jace. Not even close. The next morning came slowly. Gray light spreading over the rooftops of Caltharian. The city looked peaceful, as if nothing strange had happened during the night. But beneath the surface, fear was growing. Security reports spoke of a creature, tall, fast, and unknown. Something that moved like a shadow and left behind burn marks and broken walls. But no one believed the reports completely. They said it was an error in sensors, or maybe just wild. Imaginations only Jace and Ural knew the truth. Inside Jace's workshop, the lights were dim. The air filled with the smell of wires and solder. Ural sat on a workbench, her side still healing. Her eyes focused on Jace as he worked on a larger version of his defense drone. This one has more armor, he said, tightening a screw and twin pulse cannons. Not bad, Ural replied, picking up a small blade and spinning it in. Her fingers, but it won't help if you're too slow. Jace smiled without looking up. That's why I'm not fighting alone anymore. Ural paused, the blade still in her hand. Then slowly nodded. Something had changed between them, something unspoken. She didn't mock him now. Didn't call him weak, and he didn't treat her like a wild alien anymore. They were partners now, even if the world hadn't seen it yet. A warning light flashed red, and Jace turned to the wall screen. The signal had returned. The same signal from the night before, now moving toward the energy grid near the central district. That can't be real, Jace whispered. We took it down, unless it healed. Ural said quietly, or it was never alone. Jace looked at her. Serious, we have to go. Ural stood without hesitation, grabbing her short sword and sliding it behind her back. No more running, she said. Let's end this. They moved fast through the narrow side streets, avoiding the main guards. Jace carried his new drone in a shoulder harness, wires glowing faintly. Ural moved beside him like a shadow, her eyes scanning every corner, her claws ready. They reached the old energy grid building, a tall structure with broken glass and humming coils. The air felt colder here, like something was draining the heat. Inside, the lights flickered and strange marks were burned into the floor footprints. But not human, it's feeding, Jace said. Stealing power, they moved deeper inside, floor by floor. Each level darker than the one before. Then, they heard it, a low, pulsing hum, like metal breathing. The creature stood near a massive generator, wires from its body plugged into the walls. Red lights blinking across its frame. It turned slowly, and its voice, robotic and cracked, spoke for the first time. Unwanted interference detected. Ural stepped forward, growling. We're more than interference. It lunged, but this time they were ready. Ural moved first, fast and sharp, her blades slicing across its arm, sparks flying. Jace activated his drone, which hovered into the air and fired twin pulse blasts into the creature's chest. The monster roared and slammed Ural into a wall, but she recovered quickly. Flipping backward and landing on her feet, Jace threw an energy trap on the floor. The device opened with a flash of blue light and pulled the creature's leg downward. Slowing its movement, they didn't talk much. They didn't need to. She moved like a storm, claws and blade, while he guided the drone and set traps. Every move was balanced. Every hit counted. The creature adapted again, breaking free of the trap. Slamming into the drone and sending it crashing down, Jace shouted. "By me, 10 seconds, Ural leaped onto the creature's back, digging her claws into its spine, pulling at its wires. It screamed and swung wildly. Crashing into walls, trying to throw her off, Jace grabbed a plasma rod and activated it. The tip glowing white-hot Ural jump. He yelled. She pushed off just in time, flipping in the air. And Jace drove the rod straight into the creature's chest. The heat cut through metal and wires, straight to its core, with a final cry. The creature burst into light and smoke, collapsing into a heap of sparks. Silence returned. Only their breaths could be heard. Jace dropped the rod and sat on the ground. Exhausted, Ural walked over, pulled him up, and looked at the ashes of the creature. "No more calling humans weak," she said, not with a smirk, but with truth. "And no more saying aliens don't care," Jace replied, smiling. They left the building together, limping, bloody, but alive, and in that broken city, under a rising sun. They were no longer enemies, no longer strangers, they were a team. The news spread quickly through Caltharian. 2 unidentified energy beings had been destroyed, and the source of the kill was listed as unknown humans using unauthorized tech. But the locals knew the truth. They whispered about it in food stalls and docking lines. They say a human engineer and a Varnak girl fought the creatures. Together, some said, others laughed. No way. Varnaks don't fight with humans, they crush them. But the rumors wouldn't die. Back in the alien quarter, Ural stood before her clan. The Varnak elders sat on high stone chairs, their eyes cold. Their horns decorated with medals from old battles. "You fought beside a human." One elder said slowly, his voice filled with disgust. "You bled for him, defended him, and called him your equal." Ural stood straight, her arms crossed, her voice calm. "Yes, I did." The crowd behind her shifted uncomfortably. Some growled under their breath. "He is weak," another elder snapped. "Soft, emotional, flawed." "No," Ural said firmly. "He is clever, fast, and brave. You bring shame to your bloodline," they shouted. Ural stepped forward. "If this is shame, then I wear it with pride at the same time." Jace sat in a metal chair outside the Varnak court, guards watching him with cold eyes. He didn't speak, didn't argue, just stared at the floor. He had been called in for questioning, but he knew it was more than that. "They'll throw you off-world." One guard said, "You embarrassed them." Jace didn't reply, inside. The argument continued. "She must renounce the human," an elder said, "or face exile." Ural's fingers twitched, her claws ready, but her voice stayed level. "I won't turn my back on him," she said. "He didn't run when the creature came. He didn't hide, he stood between death and the city. That's not our concern." They snapped. "It should be," she growled, louder now. "We call ourselves warriors. But none of you went to investigate the signal. None of you even cared." Silence fell over the court. The words heavy. "I did what none of you dared to do," she said, "and I saw something you've forgotten. True strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it works quietly. Bleeding, building, protecting. Outside." The door opened, and Jace was called in. He walked slowly into the chamber, all eyes on him. Ural stood beside him without shame. "This is the human," the elder said. "What do you say to your defense?" Jace looked up, his voice calm. "I didn't come here to defend myself. I came to stop a threat, and I did." The elders scoffed. "You think that earns our respect?" "I don't care about your respect," Jace said softly. "I care about saving lives." The hall grew tense. Ural stepped forward. "If you punish him, then punish me too." One elder leaned forward. "You would fall with him." "I would rise with him," she replied. The oldest elder, quiet until now, finally spoke. His voice slow and deep. you challenge tradition. Ural, I challenge blindness, she replied. The old Varnak looked at Jace human. Do you understand what this means for her? Jace nodded. She already chose her path. And if we cast her out, the elder asked, she won't. Be alone, Jace said. I'll go with her. Ural looked at him, eyes wide. Surprised by the words, for a moment, the entire chamber was silent. The weight of loyalty hanging in the air. Then the old elder raised his clawed hand. Let it be known, he said. Ural is no longer bound by clan. Her honor is her own. Gasps filled the room, some angry, some shocked. Ural bowed once, not with regret, but with strength. She turned to Jace and said, Come on, human, let's go build something better. As they stepped out of the hall, the air felt lighter. They were no longer bound by species or clan. They were bound by trust, and that was something stronger than blood. The stars above Caltherion blinked softly, quiet and far away, as if watching everything unfold below. Jace and Ural sat on the roof of his workshop, looking at the night sky in silence. The city behind them buzzed faintly, but up here, it was peaceful. Ural had a bandage across her side, the mark from the second fight still healing. Jace had a bruise on his cheek and a small patch over his arm, but he looked relaxed. They didn't speak much at first, both of them just breathing, just existing side by side. Finally, Ural broke the silence. Do you regret it, Jace? Looked over. Regret what? Everything. She said, fighting, standing with me, getting marked by my people. Jace shook his head slowly. No, I'd do it again. Ural didn't answer right away, but her tail curled around her feet, gently. Not long ago, I thought humans were nothing, she said, her voice quiet, but I was wrong. Jace gave a small smile. And not long ago, I thought aliens like you couldn't care. She turned to him, her silver eyes soft under the stars. We're both wrong. Then, he laughed quietly. Best kind of lesson. Down below, repair drones moved slowly across the city, fixing what the creature had damaged. The report had been changed. Of course, the guards claimed victory. And the Varnak Council never spoke about the humans part, but some people knew. Some whispered the truth that a small alien girl and a human man had saved them. Together, Ural stood, stretched her arms, and looked at the sky. You know? I used to believe strength came only from the body. And now? Jace asked, leaning back on his elbows. Now I think strength comes from what we carry inside. She said, and how far we'll go for someone else. Jace looked at her for a long moment, then said, You changed. She nodded. You did too. The wind picked up, brushing against their faces like a soft breath. Ural sat back down, this time closer to him, not saying anything, just letting the silence speak. After a while, Jace reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. I was going to build this for the city guard, he said, but now I'm building it for us. Ural tilted her head, curious. What is it? A distress signal, Jace explained. One that works across long sectors, through storms, through jamming tech. So no one gets lost, she whispered. Understanding? Yeah, Jace said softly. No more sisters left behind. She placed her hand gently over his, her claws. Careful not to cut the skin. You carry so much, she said. But you never let it crush you. He looked at her, and you carry fire. But now it warms instead of burns. They both smiled. A soft moment shared between two beings who were never supposed to meet, never supposed to understand each other. But they did. That night, they made a promise, not with words, not with grand gestures, just by staying there, together, under the stars from that day forward. Ural trained beside Jace, not just as a warrior, but as a thinker, a builder, a protector, and Jace, in return, learned from her how to move like A fighter, how to read danger with his body, not just his tools. Together, they became more than what they were. Rumors of them spread beyond Caltharian. Whispered in docking bays and trade routes. Some called them strange, others called them dangerous. But a few, the ones who had seen true danger, called them hope. Because if a tiny alien girl and a quiet human man could fight side by side, could bleed together, could protect each other in a cold galaxy, then maybe peace wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was waiting. In quiet corners, in whispered truths. In nights just like this one, Ural looked at Jace one last time before heading. Inside, her voice calm, but strong. One night changed everything. She said, and I'll never forget it. Jace nodded. Neither will I. The stars kept shining. Above two souls who once saw only difference, and now saw something else. Future, together.